Like you really thought I was gonna review Panty and Stocking, that borderline porno.
Pepsi?
Darvoc?
I don't know how to say this, but you've been in a coma for 2 weeks. Are you alright?
A little headache, but that's about it.
I'm not really sure how to tell you this, but we're stuck in the negative dimension. Doesn't this place seem familiar? That's because we're just in a dream. Think of this place as a mix between a dream and a simulation. It tries to simulate the minds of people in it to create the perfect dream. Fortunately, the simulation is quite flawed, and it can create shitty simulations like this guy.
And who is that supposed to be?
That's the rival.
What?
Yep, and because of this, I finally figured it all out. Tyler is the one who stole the box that leads here. This place exists solely as the resting place to the Crimson Blood, a fortified defense that I haven't been able to escape from.
So it feels like a good dream, right? One where everything is perfect and everything just works out in the end. Don't you just find that funny? Don't you just find that so funny? That he got recasted as a movie with a notoriously recasted actor. Oh, I love irony. Always funny. Always reinvents itself. It's all here. Everything I lost in the explosion. It's all just back.
What are you doing?
Well, when I'm stressed, I guess I just do what I do best. Just sit back, watch, and keep in mind about recasted actors. What is the most obscure game you've ever played? Now, of course, that's a rhetorical question. I don't actually really care, but still, the thought of hidden gems, something that makes us feel special because only we know of its existence. Doesn't matter if it's a game, movie, TV show, anything. And well, as much as it pains me, I'm going to be sharing one of those with you guys today. Now, it's debatable if this is the most obscure game I've ever played, because, there's been a ton, but it's definitely up there. It has practically zero fan base, practically zero online presence. It's a game that's just kind of fallen into the abyss forever ago. Now, enough build-up, here's Octomania. And now I know you might be saying to yourself, Chris, what the actual fuck is an Octomania? Well, allow me to explain. Octomania is a puzzle game that I picked up in a junk bin for $5 a few years back, and I was just in love with the art style and the whole design. I had to pick it up to know what the hell this was. Apparently, it originally came out in arcades in 2006, and apparently it did enough to get an enhanced Wii port in 2008 right here, which came out as a $20 budget title for the Wii. But I'm going to be structuring this review a little bit differently than my other reviews. I want to get the main positives that I love out of the way first, before I get into the negatives, which we will talk upon. I'm going to be looking at graphics and story first, and then everything else afterwards. Other than that, it's still the same old 6-cycle story that you've seen before. Now, of course, without further ado, let's look into Octomania. Now, the graphics don't need to blow you away for a puzzle game, I think you guys all know that, but the art style is freaking gorgeous. It feels as if it was ripped straight out of the old Puyo Puyo games, as the art style switches from chibi forms to real forms every now and then. The character designs are lovely, the art is bright and beautiful, and come on, it's anime. The art, no matter what, is always freaking great. But even so, the real star of the show here has to be the story. The story goes that Kari, a magic user, wanted takoyaki, the octopus treats, but screwed up her magic so much that it started raining octopi. So now she needs to journey to find the Dark Prince, Prince Exaltus, to ask him how to fix this. And that's only the beginning, since there are so many twists and turns in the story that are honestly so great, I'd rather you experience them for yourself than have me spoil them. But oh my god, the writing is genuinely funny, and the characters, all the characters are self-absorbed, are completely deranged, and each have their own mental disorders and issues, and overall act like total crackheads. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the writers were on crack writing some of this stuff, but the main star of the show is Kari, who's just a complete cynical asshole to every character. Like, I get it, all these characters are very intolerable, but come on. You think that for the main character, they would write her to be nice, but no. She's extremely rude and fed up with everybody, and I love it. This is the kind of writing that I crave in media, and man, does the writing heavily remind me of the old Puyo Puyo games, which, doing some research, made me find out, oh my god, this game was developed by Compile Heart. Now let me just do a little brief history lesson. Compile developed the first 4 Puyo Puyo games and made it a massive hit in Japan. Still, it couldn't save them from the cold killer called bankruptcy. Compile went under and Sega bought the rights for the Puyo series, to which Sega would continue making the games. Now, of course, because I'm cultured, I know that the best Puyo games were the first 4, as once the game transitioned, it just lost a lot of its original edge since it wasn't made by the same people anymore. Yet I had no idea that a bunch of ex-Compile devs reformed to create a new company called Compile Heart. Yes, I know, very original naming of them. So, this was basically meant to be the next Puyo Puyo, which is baffling to think about as this game didn't even make a dent in Puyo Puyo's success. By now, I'm pretty sure that you guys can understand that I adore this game's presentation. It's just as funny and memorable as the original Puyo Puyo games that came before it. But how does this game stack up as a successor to Puyo Puyo? And, well, it's a bit complicated. Now, the gameplay is simple enough. Different colors of octopi fall out of the sky, and the goal is to draw them into these little grills with numbers on them to create takoyaki. The D-pad moves the cursor that controls the grid, and the 1 and 2 buttons move the octopi. But once you put a certain color onto the grill, they all turn into smoke, which you can add more of the same color to make a chain. Chain attacks create garbage sea urchins, which will then appear on the enemy's board. You can defeat sea urchins by simply adding them to your chain. You die once the screen has been completely filled up. Again, the rules are scarily similar to Puyo Puyo, but it's decently addictive. It's fun to strategize and create big chains, just like in Puyo Puyo, and it's fun to just see how long you can go before you can stop your chain. The game is a lot similar to Puyo Puyo in terms of strategy. Puyo Puyo required tons of learning and hours of mastery to be able to pull off big chains, whereas in Octomania, it'll take you a fraction of that time to learn how to get good. But I feel maybe that was the point. Maybe Compile had gotten upset how big the Puyo fanbase had gotten. Puyo was a competitive game that professionals played and was taken very seriously, so what if Compile wanted to pull a Super Smash Bros. Brawl? What if Compile tried to make a puzzle game that was easy to understand and play for beginners? But you know what? No, I'm not going to use that as an excuse for smart game design, because the reason Puyo Puyo was popular to begin with was because of its technical appeal. The casual players looked up to these masters of the craft and became inspired, saying, I can be just as good as them with enough practice, just like me. Thus, more and more people got into the game. Now, I'm not saying Octomania is devoid of strategy, because it's not, but a game like this could never be played at the same competitive level as Puyo Puyo, so again, I understand why it wasn't as successful. Now, I know it seems extremely unfair to compare this to one of the best video games of all time, but when the presentation reminds me so much of a better game that I love so much, it's hard for me to ignore it. And look, I'm not saying that the core gameplay isn't fun, because it is. It's a lot of fun when the game is slow and takes its time and you're able to create these massive chains. But when the game gets harder and faster, it's a nightmare. The main issue with the higher difficulties is that since everything goes so fast, it's just a fixture of sensory overload where you can't even tell what's going on anymore, everything goes so fast. And the cursor moves at such a slow pace, again fine when the game is slow, but when it speeds up, it's almost impossible to do things quick enough, especially when your screen fills up and you're expected to make a chain in 3 seconds before you die. But in times like these, you're at least given an aid with crystals. Once you've reached a certain amount of time, a crystal will appear on your board, attach it to a chain, and you get a special move pertaining to each character. The fun thing is that these special moves are immensely overpowered, such as Kari's, which turns every octopi on the board the same exact color, so you just have a board filled, almost about to die, but 1 crystal stocked up. You can clear the whole board and just cheat the game. Now, it's fun to use these overpowered crystals, but the sad reality is that because of that, the enemies also get to use them. It's fine because you get unlimited lives to try again, but if an enemy gets a crystal, a lot of the time it's just game over completely. But look, I feel like I've been a little too harsh on this game, as there's still tons of positives to it, as of course, why would I bring a game back from the dead just to bash on it if there was no positives? And of course, there's tons of positives, and one of them is that for a $20 budget title, there's a crap ton of content in this game. It comes with the unaltered arcade original as well as a new original mode, filled with 12 different characters, 3 difficulties, special novelty modes, and yeah, each character gets their own original story mode. So for me at least, there's a good amount of incentive for me to come back since I need to know everything about this world. And apparently back in the day it even had online play. Now, I have no idea how many people actually played the game to do online, but still, such a good feature for a $20 budget title. Oh yeah, and of course the soundtrack is just alright. Some tracks can get on my nerves on how happy they are, but some of the songs are actually pretty alright. But the main thing is the sound design, with everyone screaming special moves, again, reminiscent of Puyo Puyo. At least for the short time I've played the game again, the sound effects have infected my mind as I speak, so I guess it's doing something right. So look, I'm pretty sure you can tell that I appreciate this game. And yes, while the gameplay can be a bit flawed, it doesn't mean that the game is bad. Far from that. In fact, the whole point of this review wasn't to bash on the game for not being Puyo Puyo. In fact, that's quite the opposite. Take a look at Puyo Puyo in the first game in the series. It wasn't a perfect game, and it had a ton of flaws that were improved upon on its further entries. I wish we lived in a world where this game wasn't obscure. This game was a hit, and I can sit here and say that Octomania had the first game curse, and the sequels were so much better and improved on the formula. And I guess that simple wish invalidates my point from the beginning. My point on how I only like the game because it's obscure, as there's a ton of great stuff I love about this game that's more than just on the surface level of good because it's obscure. And I hope that's been enough to try to inspire you guys to try it out and play it for yourself. It's cheap as heck, charming as hell, and it's got a ton of content and a lot of reasons to go back to it, but even so, I personally don't feel it has the timeless prestige of Puyo Puyo, a game that I'll be playing till I'm on my deathbed. And of course, I've been saying that Puyo Puyo is a better game, but I think today I'm gonna have to recommend 2 games, Octomania and Puyo Pop Fever. Of course, the zaniness and fun of this game, I mean, if you looked at this review and if you think Octomania is something you'd enjoy, pick it up for sure, it's a ton of fun. And Puyo Pop Fever, if you've never played a Puyo Puyo game and you want to know somewhere to start, I think Puyo Pop Fever is a great entry point. It's essentially a soft reboot of the series, even though this game still has an empty void inside my soul for not having the original developers. But these games are still both very fun and very worth your time and money, and I think that's going to be it for my review. Well, usually these reviews bring out hints. Oh, look at that, one appeared. But it's just a shittily drawn octopus from the game?
Congratulations. You have opened the portal to the trial.
What?
What I am does not matter, but what does matter is that you, Pepsi, will be chosen to face the trial of the Crimson Blood.
Chris, the crystal has chosen you. You have to do this.
But I don't even know what's going on.
None of that matters, because the trial will begin shortly.
You know it should have been me going in there.
Oh, well look who showed up.
We were going to rule an empire together.
Well, sorry. Plans change sometimes.
If everything falls apart, know it's because you chose him over me.
Alright then, even if it makes you upset, because I went in there for him, not to save you.
I know you wouldn't just leave me, did I?
Another thing you're wrong about. All is fair in love and war, right?
You know I'll find out the truth one day. The setup, all of it.
Then I'll make sure I'm prepared for that day.